Alright, so let's take a look at the tomato plant of the Glacier tomato. So this is one of the more difficult tomato plants to grow. If you're starting early like me, this is really something you would want to start midsummer, like the end of July, and grow it, you know, kind of grow it somewhat shade just so it doesn't get cooked by the sun, and then let it grow into the winter. This plant really likes cold weather pretty much. And I've been online and I've read a lot of stuff about this online, and I've read a lot of people complain about it because it dies out early. Well, this plant is a semi-determinate tomato plant, meaning that it can go both ways. It's primarily a determinate if you're growing it like I am early in the spring, but if you grow it like mid-season, you grow it into the winter months, this thing can actually take a light frost. So it prefers cold weather. That's why they named it the Glacier tomato. It's a cold weather type tomato plant. It really doesn't like burning hot sun. It likes the sun, it just doesn't like warm temperatures. It really prefers cooler temperatures. And what I've noticed too with this plant is that when it rained a lot, it really didn't like a lot of rain. It just did not like that. And since that rain really battered the hell out of it, I've noticed that the black spot septoria and some of the late blight early blight actually is coming in. It also got hit with a little late blight as well, and it's really going to wipe the tomato plant out. This is really blight season. So, but anyway, we'll go over more of that on the other part of the video once I sit down and get ready to taste test it. I'll give you all the details on the plant, the species, where it comes from and stuff, but I just wanted to give you a view of what the tomatoes look like. And so this is about the average size of the tomato right here, and this is the clusters that they come in. A couple of them split open because of the rain. In fact, I have to pull these off of here. We're going to get another 2 inches of rain that's going to come down between today and tomorrow, and if I don't get them off here, these will all be split tomorrow, so I have to get these off of here. So I'm kind of shooting this video on a whim because I see that the rain is coming. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up pruning most of this plant down because I really don't think any more tomatoes are going to develop on it. And there's 2 plants in here. So by me trimming all of this excess stuff off, you can see like one of the stems here is starting to turn yellow. It's pretty much had it. That one's going to die off. But if you look down here below the yellow, you can see another stem coming up. So I might prune it down to that stem and then allow it to grow as like a second year's harvest. What do you call that? Succession planting. It'll be sort of like a succession planting, and I'll end up getting rid of all the blight on it because you can see it's really getting blighty, and it's just going to eventually kill it anyway. I mean, I got 2 plants here. I'll leave one of them going, and I'll take off the others. You know, I'll take off the one in the back and take off the excess stems because it's coming to the end. But generally, that's what you should expect to see, little clusters of these tomatoes. Like I say, not too much bigger than what you see here. They may get a little bit bigger. Let's see, I got one here. These all got to come off anyway. There's one maybe a little bit bigger than that one. And here's another one. Yes, I have been seeing, I could see some spot damage. That's not from blight or anything. That's actually from... This is just from sitting up against the metal. I'm not using these metal cages anymore, and if I do, I got to paint them because it seems like that galvanized is really doing damage to the plant and the tomatoes. I've noticed that on a few of my tomato plants. I've been noticing the galvanized, where the plant touches the galvanized, it's causing some kind of damage. So I've got to figure something else out. I have to spray these and coat them with some kind of a coating, but that's a side issue. I'll do a video on that separately. Here, this one here is actually kind of good sized here, but it's split because of all the water and the rain we're getting. It's just, we're getting massive amounts of rain, and it's just wiping out certain tomatoes, and this is one of them. It's just, this one's really not taking good to the weather, and so this is a good time for me to get the rest of these tomatoes off before I won't be able to review them at all, unfortunately. Just very bad weather for tomatoes, especially these determinate variety tomatoes. They They got to do what they got to do, and if the weather isn't right for them, you're not going to do that good as far as like volume off of it. Like I say, this is semi-determinate, so because it's semi-determinate, I may be able to prune this thing back down. Like here, you can see a whole cluster of tomatoes coming out of it. If these don't die off, I can see the stem is yellowing, so it's probably not going to finish this bloom out. So I may just get rid of the bloom altogether and just get rid of it. But if it doesn't, I'll leave it on there a little longer. If these don't start dying off, like you can see some of the flowers are starting to turn yellow and die off like that. If they all start doing that, I'm just going to take it off. There's no point in leaving it. I'm better off pruning it down and letting the new growth come up. And then that way I can get rid of the blight off it, and that'll also give it a chance to put out a new root system and hopefully give me a better harvest. So I just want to give you again, this is a potato leaf. You know, this is the potato leaf variety. This plant was doing really, really good early in the year, but once that heat, we had like a 6 weeks of solid 90+ degrees every day for 6 weeks, and from like the last week of May all the way to the first week of July, solid 90+, and then 1 week within that period it was over 100 every single day. It was just way too much for these kind of plants. This plant really didn't like it. In fact, it killed, not to get off topic here, but it killed off basically my silvery fir, which is another determinate variety. Basically wiped that one out completely, never recovered. And this one basically is showing the same signs, where you can see most of my other determinate tomatoes, my indeterminate tomatoes rather, they're all picking back up. They're all catching up with the, with everything going, and they're putting out tomatoes again. They're starting to grow. They're getting past that shock. This tomato really didn't want to recover, and it might a little bit, but hopefully I can keep this alive going all the way into the winter months, and then that's a good way to see really how this tomato performs in the cold weather. So I'm going to play it by ears, guys. I mean, I can't really guarantee that it's going to stay alive, but nevertheless, at least we can still do a taste test on the tomatoes we do have, and I do got a pretty good amount of them here. I could have gotten a lot more, but the weather is just too unpredictable and way too hot for this particular variety. I should have actually started this tomato a lot earlier and brought this tomato, out when it was about, I don't know, maybe a foot tall if you grew it indoors in winter, like say you start it in February, let it get to about a foot tall, and then bring it out while you're still getting frost or in the greenhouse and it's slightly frosty, and it probably would have done really, really, really good, because again, this plant really likes cold weather. So you're either going to grow it really early in the season or really late, but this time of the year, this is definitely not a variety that you would want to grow in a hot season like we do have up here. All right, so let's take a look at the tomatoes inside. We'll do a bricks test on it, a taste test, and I'll tell you a little bit more information about the tomato. Okay, so here we are at the taste test part of the video, and what I can tell you about this tomato is it's originally from Sweden. It's a semi-determinate tomato, and its botanical name is Solanum lycopersicum, and it's a potato leaf variety of tomato. Now, this tomato really does not do good once you get a heat wave. What I've noticed with the tomato is as long as if the temperatures are stable and everything seems to be like very consistent, like consistent rain, consistent weather, consistent temperatures, consistent humidity, this tomato will thrive and do very good. But as soon as you get like a wicked heat wave like we just got, the plant really suffered. It really did not want to do good, and ultimately in the end the whole plant seemed to, it's not totally dead, but I don't know if it's going to recover. I might trim it all the way down towards the ground and leave a few stems up and see if it comes back. But this plant, and from what I've read from other people on the internet, complained about the same thing. It's very heat intolerant. It doesn't like heat. It likes cooler weather. So we'll have to see how this plant works itself out. So I got my bricks meter here. Let me try to back you out a little bit. Here's my bricks meter, and we are going to do a bricks test. So this is the first time I'm actually using this bricks meter, and we're going to squeeze a few drops of water on it, liquid, whatever you want to call it. Seems kind of dry. All the seeds want to come out. Just want to move it around that lens a little bit. And let's see what the meter says. Nope. Right there, you can see the number for yourself. You can see right there, it's roughly 6. Generally with tomatoes, from what I've read about the bricks, anywhere between 4.5 to 6 roughly is about, it's about standard for the larger size tomatoes, and cherry tomatoes tend to be much sweeter in the sugar content. So hopefully with this number that I've just gotten off this tomato, it'll be a good sweet tomato. According to what it's saying, it's 6, which is going to be up there. That's a pretty good number for this tomato. Now, this tomato is not, they generally don't get much bigger than what you see right here. Okay, that's about the size that they get. You can see it's about the size of a golf ball. And that's about the size that they get. Here's what the inside looks like. Looks bi-chambered. It's hard to say. Maybe tri-chambered. Kind of holding it where I think you're going to be able to see it, because I cannot tell what you're actually seeing other than it showing up in the screen. So that's what the inside looks like. And that's it. Let's give it a taste test. It's not bad. It's not very tangy at all. So there's not a lot of tang in it. The sweetness is definitely pronounced. It's not very sweet though. I thought it'd be a little sweeter, but it's not as sweet as what my meter is telling me. It's telling me 6. That should be pretty considerably sweet, but it's not. But there is sweetness in there. I do taste it. It has a very nice tomato aftertaste to it. Very, very nice, aftertaste that once you swallow the tomato, you got that tomatoey aftertaste. Very nice. Tang is a little low, but it's really not that bad. Let me do this other half here. I'll be honest with you, it's not a bad tomato at all. It's mild in contrast is a good way to put it. It doesn't have a sharp sweetness or a sharp sour. It's nice right in the middle. It's very mild. So there's people who like tomato, but they don't like real strong tasting tomatoes. This would be a good variety for you. I mean, it's really mild in flavor. It's a nice snacking tomato. I mean, I could easily eat all of these tomatoes. I'll cut another one in half. That one was a little more tangy. That was incredibly balanced. It was very good. That one was very, very good. I really got to say, the skins weren't that tough on it. They went down pretty nice. That last tomato had a nice tangy flavor. I'm going to cut one more. See if we can get an average out of this. And let's give that one a go. Again, this one was kind of mild, like the first one. You know what, this would really make a good tomato sauce, to be honest with you. It's got the right kind of flavor to make a really good tomato sauce. So one of the ways I like to make tomato sauce is I take my tomatoes, just cut them up a little bit, throw them in a blender, and blend it up. And you can just use that just the way it is for sauce. Put it right on fresh cooked spaghetti and eat your spaghetti sauce cold. Once you cook tomato sauce, a lot of times you'll find it separates. So if you blend it really good, you'll find that without cooking it, you'll maintain that original flavor, and you can put it on your tomatoes, on your spaghetti just the same way, and spice it up and everything. You'll get a good cooking effect with, you're not really cooking it, but you'll get a good effect on your spaghetti. I like to do that. Sometimes I don't cook when they taste really good like this, there's no need to even cook it. You can just put cold tomato sauce right on your spaghetti. Now, the one thing I'll talk about the skins, they are a little bit tough, but they broke up really easy, and when I chewed them, I was able to swallow without pieces getting stuck in my throat, so that seems to be a condition sometimes I get with tomatoes. I don't know why they do that sometimes, but sometimes the skins get really tough on tomatoes, and they're really hard to swallow, and you got to spit them out. I'm able to swallow these pretty easily. Delicious, absolutely delicious. I just wish that this tomato grew better in the time zones that I have to grow it. I'll try growing, hopefully this plant doesn't die, and I'll try growing it into the winter. We'll see how long we can keep that tomato plant alive in the greenhouse, of course. That'll probably be the last one to die, and I'll bring that one pail down in the greenhouse if it's still alive, and see if it can produce into, you know, into November, maybe possibly December. It really depends. Now, one thing, not a lot of my tomatoes cracked, but unfortunately some of them did, and this was one of the varieties that really showed its cracking ability. It really cracked relatively pretty easy, to be honest with you. It wasn't that much rain at first when I noticed these cracks, and once you get cracks in your tomatoes, you got to get rid of, you got to do something with them, because those fruit flies come in instantly. And once they come in, I won't even eat these because I already seen fruit flies on it. And anytime you see fruit flies, especially on your tomatoes, they lay maggots. Within hours, you'll have maggots inside that tomato. So because of that reason, I'm not going to eat those 2 tomatoes, because I really don't want to. I'm going to be thinking about that and everything. But they're really not a bad tomato to grow. I mean, like I say, they're going to be a little hard for you if you're going to try to grow these tomatoes in midsummer like I'm doing now. This is really not this environment for this tomato. But we grew it anyway, just, you know, for the sake of growing it and reviewing the tomato. So it did grow. I did pick off a few more. They're not quite ripe yet. I'll let these sit out and ripen a little bit. And, you know, I'll add, I'm going to save seeds from these over here. And I'm going to save the seeds from the rest of these. I might eat 1 or 2 more of these. They're actually really good. Very, very good. I definitely give these a thumbs up. It's just the growing conditions for them. You really got to plan these out, because if not, you're going to just have problems. It did really good in the beginning part of the year, but as soon as that heat wave hit, within about 2 weeks into that heat wave, the plant just began to stop growing, and it started getting yellow leaves, and it did not like the heat at all. It did great in the beginning though. Once the heat wave kicked in, it was like, no way, you know. So, anyways, that's just a tomato review for the Glacier tomato. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one.